The silent vanguard. The Karishi warships emerged from hyperspace like obsidian daggers piercing the fabric of reality. Their hulls absorbed rather than reflected light, creating an unsettling void against the starry backdrop of Earth's solar system. Supreme Commander Virik stood on the command deck of the flagship Inevitable Conquest, his four eyes narrowing as they focused on the small blue-green planet displayed on the main view screen. Another primitive world for the glory of the Empire, First Lieutenant Maris commented, her mandibles clicking with anticipation. Scans indicate basic spacefaring capabilities, rudimentary orbital stations, and primitive nuclear weapons. Nothing that poses any threat to our fleet. Virik's cranial ridge pulsed with a deep purple glow, a sign of satisfaction among the Karishi. Broadcast the standard declaration of conquest. Give them 6 Earth hours to surrender control of their governments. The usual terms. The Karishi Empire had conquered 300 worlds across 17 star systems over the past century. Their method was efficient and rarely required significant planetary bombardment. Most civilizations surrendered after witnessing the Karishi's technological superiority. Those who resisted served as examples to future conquests. As the ultimatum was transmitted to every electronic device on Earth, Virik studied the inhabitants' response. Confusion, panic, military mobilizations that would prove futile. The expected reaction of a species facing an overwhelming force. Supreme Commander, Lieutenant Maris called out, "We're receiving a response from their unified military command." Virik gestured dismissively with one of his secondary limbs. "Put it through. Let's hear their terms of surrender." The view screen shifted to show a human female in a dark blue uniform adorned with minimal insignia. Her expression betrayed neither fear nor panic, only a composed alertness that momentarily gave Virik pause. "I am Commander Elena Reyes of Earth's Defense Command," she stated, her voice steady. "We have received your ultimatum and request a 12-hour extension to coordinate our response among Earth's nations." Virik's ridge pulsed amber with amusement. "Commander Reyes, your request is denied. The terms are non-negotiable, and the timeline stands. You have." He checked the timepiece. 5 hours and 23 minutes remaining. Commander Reyes nodded, as if she had expected this answer. "Then I should inform you that we've activated our preliminary defense protocols. Please don't interpret this as hostility, merely standard procedure while diplomacy proceeds." Virik's ridge flickered with confusion. "Your defenses are inconsequential, Commander. Any aggressive action will only result in a more thorough conquest." "Understood, Supreme Commander. Rise out." As the transmission ended, Lieutenant Maris approached. "Preliminary defense protocols. Our intelligence indicated they have nothing beyond basic planetary shields that couldn't withstand even our scout vessels." "A bluff," Virik responded, though a flicker of uncertainty passed through his ridge. "Monitor their military communications. I want to know what they're planning." "Supreme Commander." The sensor officer's voice carried an unusual pitch of alarm. "We're detecting thousands of small objects deploying from Earth's moon." The view screen shifted to show a cloud of metallic particles streaming from hidden lunar installations, spreading throughout near-Earth space in a complex, swirling pattern. "Analysis," Virik demanded. "Unknown technology," the science officer replied, mandibles twitching with agitation. "They appear to be microscopic devices, perhaps some form of automated defensive swarm." Virik's ridge pulsed red with irritation. "Activate perimeter shields. Lieutenant Maris, prepare a measured response. Target their largest military installation as a demonstration." But before the order could be carried out, the view screen erupted with warning signals. The cloud of particles had surrounded the Karishi fleet, and sensors indicated they were attempting to interface with the ship's external systems. "Impossible," the science officer whispered. They're reconfiguring themselves to match our shield frequencies. This technology shouldn't exist on a pre-galactic civilization." Virik slammed his primary limb against the command console. "Countermeasures. Deploy electromagnetic pulse." The The EMP burst forth from the Karishi ships, a ripple of invisible energy designed to disable any electronic system within its radius. For a moment, the swarm's advance halted. Then, impossibly, it resumed. "They've adapted," the science officer reported, disbelief evident in his voice. "The swarm is now penetrating our outer hull. They're analyzing our systems." A new transmission cut through the chaos. Commander Reyes appeared once more on the view screen, still composed but now standing in what was clearly an advanced command center, far beyond the technology level the Karishi had expected from Earth. "Supreme Commander Virik, what you're experiencing is our Prometheus defense network. Microscopic adaptive machines that can interface with, analyze, and if necessary, disable any technological system they encounter. We've designed them specifically to counter threats exactly like yours." Virik's ridge pulsed with deepening red. "This is impossible. Our intelligence was exactly what we wanted you to see." Reyes finished for him. "The Karishi Empire isn't the first advanced civilization to discover Earth, Supreme Commander. But you are the first to threaten us openly, which forced our hand." Lieutenant Meres leaned toward Virik, keeping her voice low. "Supreme Commander, the swarm has infiltrated 60% of our fleet. They're not damaging our systems yet, but they've mapped our entire network architecture. If they choose to attack..." Virik felt the unfamiliar sensation of true uncertainty, something he hadn't experienced in decades of conquest. "Commander Reyes, what are your terms?" A subtle smile crossed Reyes' face. "For now, simply stand down your weapon systems and recall any launched fighters. The Prometheus network will maintain its position, but it won't interfere with your ship's life support or communications. And then we talk, Supreme Commander. You see, humanity has been preparing for this day for over a century. We've maintained the appearance of a divided, technologically limited species because we observed how the Karishi Empire treats potential rivals." As if to punctuate her statement, a massive shadow began to eclipse the Karishi fleet. Something was emerging from the dark side of Earth's moon. Something that had been hidden from their sensors until this moment. "What you're seeing," Commander Rice continued, "is the ESS Defiance, Earth's first interstellar warship. While it's the only one of its kind currently operational, I think you'll find its capabilities illuminating." The Defiance was unlike any vessel Virik had ever seen. Unlike the sharp, aggressive lines of Karishi ships, this human vessel had an organic flowing design. It seemed to absorb and redirect the very light around it, creating an impression of constant motion, even when stationary. Its size rivaled the inevitable conquest, yet it had remained completely undetected until now. "You have 1 hour to consider your position, Supreme Commander," Rice said, her tone still measured and diplomatic. "We would prefer peaceful contact between our civilizations, but we are fully prepared to defend ourselves should you choose conflict. The choice, as they say, is yours." As the transmission ended, Virik stared at the human ship, his ridge now pulsing with alternating colors, a sign of profound distress among the Karishi. "Orders, Supreme Commander," Lieutenant Meres asked quietly. Virik continued to stare at the viewscreen, at this impossible human vessel that challenged everything he thought he knew about this planet and its inhabitants. "Prepare a detailed report for the Imperial Council," he finally replied, "and open a secure channel to Commander Reyes. I believe negotiations are in order." The battlefield had gone silent, and in that silence, the true strength of humanity had made itself known. The reckoning dawned. Supreme Commander Virik was not accustomed to negotiating from a position of weakness. For 3 decades, he had led the Karishi expansion fleet, subjugating species after species in the name of imperial progress. Never had he encountered a civilization that had so thoroughly deceived Karishi intelligence. "Status report," he demanded, his ridge now a deep blue, the color of calculation among his kind. "The human swarm technology has infiltrated every ship in our fleet," Lieutenant Meres reported. They've accessed our databases, but haven't corrupted any systems. It appears to be an information-gathering exercise rather than an attack. And the Defiance. It remains in position between our fleet and Earth. Energy readings are confusing. Their power signature doesn't match any known configuration. It's as if they're using a completely different approach to energy generation. Vyric's secondary limbs twitched with irritation. How is this possible? How did they hide such advancement from our observers? The science officer, Lorix, approached with a data tablet. Supreme Commander, I've analyzed what little data we've gathered from their vessel and the swarm. Their technological path diverged from standard development patterns, while most species, including ourselves, advance along predictable lines from combustion to fission to fusion. The humans appear to have taken unexpected leaps in certain areas. Explain. Rather than focusing on brute force approaches, they've specialized in miniaturization, adaptability, and system integration. Their Prometheus swarm, for instance, it's not just a weapon. It's an interconnected intelligence system that can learn and adapt in real time. The communications officer interrupted. Supreme Commander, incoming transmission from the Defiance. The view screen activated to show Commander Reyes, now standing on what appeared to be the bridge of the human vessel. Unlike the utilitarian design of Karishi ships, the human bridge was arranged in concentric circles, with officers seated at stations that seemed to flow organically from the ship's architecture. Supreme Commander Virik, Reyes greeted him. I trust you've had time to assess your situation. Virik straightened to his full height. Commander Reyes, the Karishi Empire does not take kindly to deception. You've concealed your true technological capabilities, an act the Empire considers hostile. Reyes raised an eyebrow. With respect, Supreme Commander, we concealed our capabilities for the same reason a porcupine doesn't advertise its quills until threatened. Your empire's history of subjugating technologically advancing civilizations is well documented. We simply chose prudence over provocation. How long have you known about us? Virik asked, unable to contain his curiosity. We detected your scout ships entering our solar system 73 years ago, Reyes replied. We captured one for study, replaced it with a duplicate that transmitted only what we wanted you to see, and began preparing. The Prometheus network has been operational for 30 years. The Defiance is newer, a culmination of what we learned from studying various extraterrestrial technologies. Lieutenant Merez leaned toward Virik. Supreme Commander, our tactical analysis suggests their vessel possesses weapon systems we cannot counteract with our current defenses. Virik's ridge pulsed with the deep purple of decision. Commander Reyes, what are your demands? Reyes seemed momentarily surprised by the direct question. Demands. We don't seek conquest. Supreme Commander, we want recognition. Earth and the Sol system as sovereign territory, not negotiable. Beyond that, we're open to diplomatic relations, trade agreements, even cultural exchange. But any relationship must be built on mutual respect. The Empire doesn't recognize the sovereignty of pre-galactic civilizations, Virik stated flatly. Then perhaps it's time for the Empire to revise its policies, Reyes replied. Because as you can see, technological classification doesn't always reflect a species' true capabilities. As if to emphasize her point, the Defiance's outer hull began to shimmer with a cascade of light, a power demonstration that caused the Karishi sensors to fluctuate wildly. What you're witnessing, Reyes explained, is our gravitational manipulation field. Unlike your shields, which create energy barriers, our defense system alters the fabric of space-time around our vessel. Projectiles don't bounce off. They follow curved trajectories around us. Energy weapons disperse before reaching the hull. The science officer, Lorix, made a sound of astonishment. That's theoretical physics. No species has successfully weaponized gravitational fields. Until now, Reyes noted, humanity has always excelled at turning theory into practice when survival demands it. Virik considered his options. The Karishi Empire had never retreated from a conquest, never acknowledged defeat, yet the alternatives here seemed limited. His fleet was effectively neutralized by the Prometheus swarm, and the human warship possessed technology the Empire hadn't even theorized. "Commander Reyes," he finally said, "I propose a temporary armistice, while I consult with the Imperial Council. I cannot unilaterally recognize your sovereignty, but I can suspend conquest operations pending further diplomatic exchange." Reyes nodded, seemingly satisfied with this concession. "Acceptable. The Prometheus swarm will withdraw to a defensive perimeter, but remain active. During this armistice, perhaps you'd be willing to exchange some cultural and scientific information. Nothing strategic, just a gesture of potential future cooperation." The offer surprised Virik. Most species, when gaining an upper hand, immediately demanded reparations or technology transfers. "You don't want our weapons technology?" he asked directly. Reyes smiled. "Supreme Commander, if we wanted your technology, the Prometheus swarm has already cataloged it. What interests us more is your art, your history, your biology, the aspects of Karishi civilization that make you who you are. Weapons we can build. Understanding is harder to engineer." The response was so unexpected that Virik's ridge briefly flashed white. The Karishi expression of revelation. "You're a puzzling species, Commander Reyes." "That's probably the most accurate assessment of humanity I've ever heard," she replied with a hint of humor. "We'll transmit coordinates for a neutral meeting point between our vessels. Small delegations, unarmed, to formalize our armistice and begin cultural exchange." After the transmission ended, Lieutenant Maris approached Virik. "Supreme Commander, is this wise? The Empire has never negotiated with a target world." Virik watched as the Defiance adjusted its position, the space around it seeming to bend and flow like water. "Lieutenant, in 3 centuries of expansion, we've encountered many species that fight bravely, some that fight cleverly, but none that rendered our entire fleet helpless without firing a single destructive shot." He turned from the view screen. "Prepare a detailed report for the Imperial Council. Classification: immediate priority. Subject: recommendation for full diplomatic recognition of Earth as a sovereign power. The Council will resist such an unprecedented recommendation," Maris warned. "Then they should come here and face the Defiance themselves," Virik replied, his ridge settling into a calm blue. "Sometimes, Lieutenant, true strength lies in recognizing when you've encountered your equal. Or perhaps," he added, looking back at the graceful human ship, "something more." As the Karishi fleet maintained its position, the stars continued their eternal dance around this unremarkable yellow sun, a sun that, Virik now realized, had given birth to perhaps the most remarkable species the Empire had ever encountered. The battlefield remained silent, but in that silence, a new understanding had begun to dawn.